My journey and path to God, part 4. I've been drinking wine, so my teeth are a little getting dark already. So I went back down to live with my uncle. I was 19, to Quincy, Louisiana. We still worked in Texas. We did a lot of different jobs for people. Worked at this guy's house. I mean, huge slide in his backyard. Rich, just like the other guy, like I was saying. But I moved back down this time, and I was giving everything I had. I wasn't watching TV. I wasn't listening to music. I was wearing suits. I was doing everything. I go back down there to live with my uncle whenever I'm 19, and they have a monitor, not a TV. Don't say TV. This guy came in, I said, oh, he's in the back room watching TV. My uncle got so mad. Don't tell them I'm watching TV. It's a monitor where we just go and get these old VHS tapes and watch them all the time, you know. Okay. All of his children are older now. He's got 5 kids. All of them are older. I live in Beaumont with his son, the one that backslid and did all the drugs and stuff. I live with him a little bit while we're doing work in Texas, and every day before church he would stop at his girlfriend's house. They'd go upstairs and have sex. I'm like sitting down here in the living room just listening, not wanting to listen, but it's happening, and waiting for them to get finished. So these people that didn't even have TV before, they're listening to the radio. I'm trying to do this part faster. I want to get through all this part faster. But all right, so his one daughter's a virgin, she's like the pride of his life, and I go out with her and she's cussing and stuff and hanging out with all these friends that are doing stuff. And one of the cool parts about going down there was, I had peace again. I was with my uncle and them, and he knew, he was such a man of God. I could get my license. Well, I had gotten my permit whenever I was 15 and a half or 16, but it'd been expired forever. And I go down here to Quincy's just this little town. It's got like 3 miles to drive through it. Not that big, but huge Pentecostal town, churches on every corner type deal. And, oh yeah, there's like 90-year-old ladies I go to get my license, because before that I was driving his van without insurance or a license. But so I go to get my license, and she's just like, well, just come in tomorrow and take your test. That's it. I didn't have to take a written test. I didn't have to redo my permit. I didn't even have to have a permit. She just gives me a license for taking a 10-minute test. I thought that was pretty cool. No parallel parking in Ohio. You got to parallel park. We didn't have to do anything like that. She just had me park in a parking spot. So they're all lying and everything. We're at this Bruce guy's house in Texas, Beaumont, I think, doing, I think it was in Beaumont. It could have been outside of Beaumont. I was staying with my cousin in Beaumont while we were doing this guy's house, but whatever. Still rich guys, painting, all that stuff, that kind of stuff. And so they go to have this, his daughters cater for him, and now his older daughter, one of them's a pilot at this point. She's in the book of Who's Who. Another girl she does murals on a wall, making like at least $35 an hour. All these people are rich at this point, So not only were we doing painting while she was doing murals, just a bunch of stuff, but yeah, we go to this guy's house and they cater for him, and they're like having this nude party, like swimming and everything, and they're all like, drinking and stuff. So I come back down, all of a sudden they got TV monitors. I go and stay with his children. They're watching rated R movies. They're hanging out with people, cussing and doing everything else. They're sleeping with people before they're married. I'm like, oh my God, what is this? So their whole life they were like this, and now all of a sudden, I was like, what is going on? But yet we're still going to these churches. He's still casting out devils. He's still healing everybody. His wife hated me at that point. She got me kicked out of that place. Oh God. All right, so she wanted me to go to work, and I wanted to go to work. I was going to go to work, and I did wind up working at the dollar store while I was down there, which is right behind my house. Literally walked through my fence and went to their, it was their house, but I was staying in it, and went to work. And I was a cashier and a stock boy there and whatever. And then I wound up working at Brookshire Brothers there in Quincy, and I was a stock boy and a bag boy and all that. But at first he didn't want me to work, because after we did this one guy's house, he said, well, we got these houses coming up in Austin, Texas. We got 12 houses lined up in Austin, Texas. So don't go to work yet, because I don't want you to have to quit without giving them a 2-week notice. So everything is hypocrisy at this. Everything that is going on down here. We're in this multi-level marketing company at the time. Whenever he came up to Ohio, he got me into it. I used to wear Botany 500 suits. Whenever I was in church, I would give presentations. I signed up like 21 people in the first month. So I was really good for his business, really good for his business. But yeah, he was like, no, don't work. He was like, just work around here for me. And he said, and I'll pay you $8 an hour. I said, I don't want any money from you. I eat your food. I live in your house. I don't want any money. you know? And he was like, no, the Bible says the laborer is worthy of his hire. So he wanted to pay me. He wanted to pay me $8 an hour. I talked him down to $6. Like, it doesn't sound like the right thing to do. Aren't you supposed to talk people up? Talked him down to $6 an hour because he wouldn't go 5 and he wouldn't go nothing. So we settled on 6, and then I gave him 40% tithes on top of that. So what am I making? What am I making? About 4? And he was the one that didn't want me to work. Well, his wife was real mad about that. And then he let me live in his little house across the way, across the street there. And it was only 4 rooms. It was literally a perfectly square house. You had the kitchen, you had the living room, you had the bedroom, you had the bathroom. So very small house. And her dog got pregnant, and she put her dog and her puppies in my bathroom. So she put her dog and her puppies in my bathroom. And there was so much stuff going on, I just don't want to get into it. But I'm talking nothing but lies and hypocrisy at this point. But then she puts a full-grown dog and her puppies in my bathroom. And then she thinks I let it out on purpose. I didn't. But I got kicked out and everything because of this. So termites had eaten the door jamb away from the bathroom to the kitchen, you know, and I would leave the door open at night because I'm from Ohio and I didn't have air conditioning in there or anything. And it's 112 degrees sometimes down there. I'm used to it being a lot colder than that. So I'd leave the door open while I'd go play basketball at the churches and stuff. But I cannot keep up with the dog shit and the dog piss in my bathroom. So I don't even use my bathroom if I can help it. Because, I mean, it's so high. I'm trying to clean it at first, but I can't keep up with it, you know? I got stuff to do, too. I'm going to church. I'm going here. I got friends, you know? I'm skateboarding with friends and stuff out there. Well, one day I left the door open to go play basketball at the church. And the dog knocked down the door where it had eaten through with termites and got out. She was so mad because she didn't want her dog to get pregnant again because that could kill her dog, that she kicked me out of her house, left a note on my door. Nobody's ever treated me this bad before, because she was mad about the money and everything too, but I said I didn't want it, you know? And then they even told my friend, Punky down there, they told her that I forced him to pay me $8 an hour, that I wouldn't work, etc. I mean, so many lies. I mean, this was a very small town where everybody talked, so I got in trouble for playing my guitar too loud. The whole town knew about it. But I did wind up getting into a place which was cool, 3-bedroom, hardwood. I used to skateboard in the house, like, once they kicked me out. Got into this place down there where nobody's renting it because his son died in a duel, literally at the gas station right there. They shot each other over a drug deal. So they didn't want the house, so I got to live in that house for $200 a month. That was cool. Another kid got kicked out of his house, a kid that was in church with me, so he came and I had him pay $75 a month. He was also working at a different convenience store. Anyway, she kicked me out, and I wasn't a snitch. I hung out with a bunch of skater kids and everything. I wasn't a snitch. But these guys told so many lies on me, including my cousins. I got in trouble because there was rock music playing in the van. His daughter's the one that gave that to me, you know. All this stuff. It was always lies, manipulation, deceit, crap. And then they were going to leave, and this was around Katrina. Rita and Katrina, between Rita and Katrina. And I got myself a truck for $4,500. My friend helped me out with that because I got kicked out, and she gave me until Friday to get out. So I had to get out. So luckily she helped me get that truck, which I wound up crashing into a telephone pole because these guys were cruising in front of me 10 miles an hour. So I went to pass them. Whenever I went to pass them, they thought it was funny and they sped up because I tried to pass behind a back road there where the old police station used to be, hit some water because my tires were too low, and I hit the water, slid into a telephone pole, crashed the truck. I had to like lean my head out the window to get it home, radiator, and then it never started again. So, but they were just going to leave me and go back to Ohio. I happened to be going down to get a drink from the Coke machine, and I saw them all packed up and everybody in the car, and I said, "Where are you guys going?" And I flagged them down and said, "Where are you guys going?" They said, "Ohio." I said, "You're going to my mother's house. You're going to where I lived, and you weren't going to ask me to go." They said, "Do you want to come?" "Yeah." So I left my truck. I left all the basketball, baseball, football cards that I'd collected over the years that were worth a lot. Left my skateboard, left my guitar stuff, left every single thing. Got in the car with them, went up to Ohio. Funny thing was, this guy winds up calling me. He got my truck from the impound, and then he said, "Hey, guess what? I just moved in the house where you used to live." And then Katrina hit, and this big tree fell between my truck and the house and all that stuff. But anyway, I was older and I was done. So whenever I was there, I got with this girl. Whenever I first moved down, my aunt came to me. She didn't want anybody to know because she lives in a church town. And she said, "Don't tell anybody that you're married, Derek, or they won't let you date their daughters." And in my head, I'm going, I don't want to date their daughters. I'm married, and that's evil. That's against the Bible. Why did she just say this to me? You know? But then I did wind up seeing this girl down there, and we did a couple things, and that was like hell. We had to sneak around, and then my cousin, who was married in down there, told on me for it whenever he was cheating on his wife. Okay, anyway. So he tells on me for it. I get brought in before everybody in this church. I was going to the Caldwell's church, and then one time I went to the Hennigan's church. I'm just trying to get over with this part fast. The Hennigan's church, the preacher had just come back from Italy, and he ate so much olive oil that he was anointing people with his sweat while he was in the church, you know. I'd also gone to church in Beaumont at the Cisco's church, a whole bunch of different stuff. But I actually was attending the Caldwell's church. And come to find out, so this guy sits me down in his office, this preacher. How dare you, blah, blah, blah. Come to find out, he is driving to Lafayette to see a 15-year-old girl in a hotel, and the church is sweeping it under the rug. Anyway, after all that drama, I am done with that shit after this. All right, now I'm older. I'm not so stupid. I'm not 15. I understand exactly what went on. I know a lie whenever a lie is a lie. And he comes up there, and then in front of my mom and everything, and then the girl that I was seeing down there got on a bus to come up and live with me in Ohio. But yeah, he's up there in front of my mom and everybody in the house, and he starts talking about everything. And I said, that's a lie. I said, that was your daughter's CD. I said, that's a lie. That is not what happened. I did not yell at the guy at the movie store. I mean, just bullshit. I said, no. I said, really? Is it that much? I said, no, thanks. I don't want it. You know, and I guess it was this huge thing I didn't even know about. All this bullshit. And then this with Clifton, and this with April, and how dare, I was like, they are the ones that did these things, you know? Even whenever I wasn't working for them, I was working at their little baby shop that they had. They had a baby clothing shop, and I would just sit in there all day, you know, 10 people come in throughout the entire day. I would do that for them, did everything I could possibly, and was treated like hell. And realizing at that point, because I'm an honest person, I was like, these people are pre-baiting. They are setting themselves up and saying these things to make other people think things, so to throw people off their scent whenever they're the people that did it. I get back to Ohio anyway, and in front of everybody he's saying this, and I said, no, that was theirs. No, that was, and he goes, you calling my kids a liar? So this uncle that I trusted forever, he said, you calling my children liars? I said, yeah, if they lied, it's lies. He says, you want to lock horns with me, boy? I said, are you threatening me? Are you saying that you want to fight? And he didn't say anything. He had too much pride for that. You know, he went, you know, all like, he's going to do something. Needless to say, we fell out for a bit. So I'm back in Ohio, but now I am drinking. I got this girl up here. I wound up taking her virginity. Still feel bad about that to this day. But we wind up, you know, I just take her out of church completely. I'm done. I'm done with this stuff. You know, no thought of that. Back to skateboarding, back to everything else. And then I told her I don't want to be with her anymore. I said, look, you're the kind of person that I'd probably marry. You haven't done anything wrong to me. But I gave her my car and everything because she was stuck up there. So I said, here, I'll get you a place. I got her into a place. I was working construction. Gave her a car. Gave her my car, my only car at the time, so that she could have it. And I said, I just don't want to be with you. I want to go out and party and stuff. And I don't want to do this anymore. So before it was all over, the best friend that I had mentioned earlier that I lived with and everything, they wound up sleeping with each other right in my driveway. So, I mean, whole bunch of stuff's going on now. Now my whole life's completely different than what it used to be. Partying all the time, hanging out with everybody, doing as much hellion stuff as you can possibly imagine. Should have been arrested many, many times. And then I'm like, fuck it, you know, whatever. And then my mom gets with this guy that I knew from the AMVETS, because I was a member of the AMVETS, a veterans club down there. It's like the VFW fishing game. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about. Eagles. So I've been a member of the AMVETS, shooting pool all the time, out there drinking and stuff, everything like that, you know. Like, I wind up breaking up with her. She goes back home. And then I'm like 20, 21, hadn't slept with anybody in over a year. I hated them. I would be at a party. I walked in, I said, wow, that's the hottest girl I've ever seen. But I didn't want anything like that, you know. And then before the night was over, she was like, hey, will you sleep with me? I said, no. I pulled her pants up. She was on the living room floor. I literally pull her pants back up, zip them, throw her on the couch, say, no, nobody's sleeping with you. I found out she was a virgin, trying to, you know, sleep with somebody before she went to college and that kind of stuff. So I was still a good person, still screaming all the time. I remember holding this pin that I had of Jeremiah 6:16, stand ye in the way and see and ask for the old paths, run is a good way, and you shall find rest for your souls. you know, and I was holding it one day, and I was like drunk in this, out in this cornfield at these people's house, drinking and everything, and I was like, I'm holding Jeremiah. You know, I like threw it, you know, I couldn't find truth no matter what I did. And whenever I say I'm crawling across the floor and doing all that stuff, I mean that I was doing all that stuff for years and years. I cannot tell you how many screaming fits, how much I could not find truth, and how much nobody was telling the truth. So then I wound up sleeping around a little bit finally. You know, I split up with that one girl, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna sleep around. So I did. We moved in next to my ex-wife. That was interesting. Next, she didn't live there anymore. My mom got with this other guy, and then we moved right next door to where she used to live. So that was interesting. Cool story here. I couldn't get a divorce from her. I started seeing another girl, Elena. Started seeing her, and I was like, did I ever tell you that I'm married? She's like, oh, I think you might have told me that. And I was like, well, we're not divorced yet. And I talked to a lawyer, and they said, well, we can't do anything without an address. You got to have an address and stuff. So I was working at Papa John's in Piqua, Ohio, and I knew that she lived in Piqua. I had heard that she lived in Piqua. And so I was about to quit Papa John's and go work at the golf course, right? And I'm seeing this new girl, Elena, and I think she might be pregnant at this time. And we're drinking and everything else. She winds up getting in church with me. And we're still going to church, but we're still drinking. So now it's like drinking and church, drinking and praying, you know, and then trying our best to do what's right, and then going back to drinking, and like, so that's how life was. But so I quit my job at Papa John's because I was starting at the golf course. You know, I was going to work at the Piqua Country Club. And I had already put in my application at the Piqua Country Club, and I was supposed to be starting there, and I put in my 2-week notice at Papa John's, and this last thing comes up, and I knew that her boyfriend's name was Jackson, and the apartment number was 1313, and inside her phone number it said 666. So I said, hey, can I take this last delivery? So I wound up going to her house, and she answered the door. You should have seen her face. Like, she answered the door. I'm the one delivering her the pizza. I said, look, I've already talked to a lawyer, blah, blah, blah. We wound up going and get a dissolution because we were only together for a year. We didn't have any property or kids. So after 4 years, I mean, we split up after 1 year, but after 4 or so years, we got a dissolution. And then I'm working at the golf club. And this is whenever life's really about to change even more. I'm working at the golf club, and I feel like God tells me, like that Holy Spirit feeling you get, to quit, you know? And he said, you're going to move. Well, I was buying my 6-pack. I was on the way home. And I go home, and I say, hey, Elena, God just told me to move, you know. He told me to quit my job, and we're going to move. Well, then I was walking through the living room, and I saw, I didn't know anything about Sevierville, Tennessee, Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg. I didn't know about that. Well, I knew about Gatlinburg, but my actual preacher uncle took me through here one time, long before it was like it is now. You still had dirt roads right off the main road, like back in the day. It's come up a whole lot since then, but this thing comes on, come to Sevierville, Tennessee on TV. And I was like, that's where I'm supposed to go, not knowing anything. I didn't know that my older brother lived here. I hadn't talked to him in a few years. I didn't know that my uncle had moved up from Louisiana to live here, my preacher uncle. Hadn't talked to them, so I had no idea. I did not know that anybody lived here. But whenever that came on, I said, we should go there. That's where we're going. She's like, yeah, how are we going to do all that? And I was like, I don't know. And then my other uncle, the deacon, and the ex-deacon in the church, the backslider, comes in just a few days later, and he said, hey, I'm going down to Sevierville. And I said, whoa. I said, what's in Sevierville? He said, that's where your brother lives. I said, really? He said, yeah, your uncle lives there too. I was like, oh, really? Do you mind if we catch a ride with you? So we came down to Sevierville and wound up moving down here. And we've been here ever since. I was 22 or 23 years old. And then her and I was a love-hate relationship with church. We were in church as hard as we could be. She has to wear skirts, long sleeves, everything. We're speaking in tongues. We're going to church. We're together. We're married. We're doing this. Sometimes we're falling out of church. We're drinking. We're partying and everything else. And then we have a baby on the way. And this is the way it was for a couple years. My uncle, again, even though all the stuff that he did to me, since God told me to move to Sevierville and I didn't know that he lived in Sevierville, I thought maybe that was a sign. So I was going to his home churches down here. And I was also going to another church in Sevierville here, in Sevierville, Tennessee, a Pentecostal church. But all the same stuff is happening. Miracles, prayer, everything, reading the Bible, listening to the Bible, knowing the Bible. They used to call me Mr. Bible at church. I got so hardcore into church at one point that I thought I couldn't even speak unless I was quoting the Bible. So they're like, Mr. Bible over here. Like even the people at the churches, because they would say something and I wouldn't speak unless I could quote a scripture back. And yet I was still screaming and I was still begging and I was still crying and I was still saying, I don't have truth, I need truth, I need truth, I need truth. I mean, I can't even, I don't know, I just can't tell. It was that much, you know. We wind up, well, no, she didn't have Joel at that point, so there's more to tell before the second baby arrived. But this isn't over. I mean, I was skipping a whole lot of stuff here, but I don't want to make this forever. I don't want to talk about every miracle and every single thing. I just want to tell you about the way that we were living. And so I'm going to this church and I wind up meeting this guy named Michael. And he's like me, very gung-ho. We are going to do everything right. We've been everywhere. We've seen healings. We do healings. We know everything. You know, we're going to really do what's right in these churches, you know. Well, hang on. Before that, before Joel was born, as Gideon was being born, I went on a 2-year drinking binge at one of these points because me and my uncle, again, all the lies that they were telling, and I knew that everything was false. So I'm down here. I drink every single day for 2 years while I'm working at the Bass Pro Shop. I drink a ton. I drink before work. I drink during work. I take it in a cup. I'm drinking. I'm outside every single night screaming at God, saying, why? What is the truth? None of this is true. This church isn't true. That's not true. My uncle's lying. Everybody's lying. I was like, what's true? So I would sit outside. We lived on a country road out here, and we had 2 hills beside us, no neighbors. So I would just sit outside in the driveway and drink till 4 in the morning and scream at God and tell him how much I didn't like him. If that's you in the churches, I fucking hate you, God. You want to fucking not tell me anything, God? Fuck you. Why don't you go fuck yourself, you stupid fucker, instead of trying to fuck me? Like, I'm sitting out here in the fucking driveway saying all this shit to him all the time. Like, oh God, oh, is that you? No, I fucking hate you. I hate you. I've begged you my whole fucking life and you've given me shit. This is what you want me to do? I don't believe my fucking uncle. I don't believe the fucking church. Fuck you. Go fuck yourself and every fucking thing you think you are, you stupid fucking bitch. Like, so that's how I'm living my life. Well, then I wound up drinking myself to a point of severe alcohol withdrawals where I lost like 40 pounds, was wasting away, couldn't move because I quit drinking. And then I decided to get back in church. And this was another final stand moment. Fine, I'll find it, God. Fine, I'll find it, God. I'll quit with the music. I'll quit with everything. I will quit everything. I'll quit drinking, even if it kills me, even if I can't walk for 30 days, which is what happened. So I read the whole Bible through. I always wanted to read the whole Bible from front to back. So since I couldn't even stand up without shaking, and I couldn't eat anything, and I was trapped in a room for that long, I decided I was going to read the Bible. So I read it all day, every day until I read the whole thing. And then finally I went to church one day. And this is whenever I started going to this person's church, actually, the Blackman's church here. So this is actually whenever I started going. I was done. I was gonna do it again, shaking like a leaf. Couldn't stand up. I said, take me to church, you know. Couldn't stand up. And then she takes me to church. I didn't wait for any altar call or anything like that because I couldn't even stand. I didn't think I was gonna make it through the day. And I just went up there and started praying. And then I felt fine, got healed again, thought everything was great. So I started attending their church, and then I started attending Uncle Roger's church again. So both churches went back and forth, back and forth. He had home churches and I went to this other church. But during the time that I'm going to this church is whenever something happened in my life after all this prayer that changed everything. And what happened was I was done. I'd already screamed. I'd already begged. I've been doing this for years. I've never had another thought except for God. And finally one day going to these churches. I guess I got to tell you about going to the churches first before I tell you about my Lieutenant Dan moment, you know, which I had plenty of those, but nothing like this one. Because I made sure I blasphemed the Holy Spirit and everything, you know. That's something I wouldn't do before, but at this point, yeah, I was ready. So Guess I'll get into that in the next video if I'm still alive. If I'm not, then God doesn't give a fuck about my testimony. He gives a fuck about truth. And we should be telling the fucking truth. And you should know if somebody says something true. So, we'll see.